Hello everyone, this is Refresh, and I'm here to take a look at Magic the Gathering's Gideon Martial Paragon Planeswalker deck from Amonkhet. Looking at the back here, it says that the contents include a ready-to-play 60-card deck featuring a foil premium Gideon Martial Paragon Planeswalker card, 2 Amonkhet 15-card booster packs, a strategy insert, and a Magic quick reference guide. Let's go ahead and open it up. Here's our shiny Gideon Martial Paragon Planeswalker card. His abilities are +2, untap all creatures you control. Those creatures gain +1/+1 until end of turn. 0 until end of turn. Gideon Martial Paragon becomes a 5/5 human soldier creature with indestructible that's still a Planeswalker. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to him this turn. And at -10, creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. Tap all creatures your opponents control. We get a nice deck box with Gideon on the cover and his name on the side. We have our 2 packs of Amonkhet here. We have the quick reference guide. It's pretty much what you're used to from Kaladesh era, obviously from the advertisement right here. And it's, I suppose, a decent reference for new players, but it's certainly not comprehensive, so it would still probably be best to have a more experienced player playing with you instead of relying on this. We also have a little information here, a bit of Gideon's story and how to play the deck. It's just 3 short paragraphs, so it's not going to really give you a deck tech that explains what the different cards are there for and why. That would be preferable, but I guess we can't expect that. And then a little tip on how to boost your deck. It's really generic though. It does not tell you anything specific to this deck, like what kind of cards you want to look out for. So this is almost like you don't even need this text right here. We have a full deck list though, so that's nice. On the back it gives you a little bit more story about who Gideon is, and then some advertisements. Let's take a look at the deck. One of our rares is Hazard's Favor, which isn't exactly the most exciting enchantment, but there it is. We have a Glorybound Initiate, which is kind of an exciting rare. Then Gideon's special card, which comes only in this pack, Gideon's Resolve. When Gideon's Resolve enters the battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Gideon Martial Paragon. Reveal it and put it into your hand, and if you search your library this way, shuffle it. And otherwise, this is just a anthem that gets you a +1/+1 to all of your creatures. So Gideon is all about making a board of creatures and then buffing them, obviously. It looks like Gideon's special uncommon is the Companion of the Trials. You get 3 of them. They are creature bird soldiers, and they are flying 2/2s for 3, and it gives you this ability that for 1 and a white, you can untap target creature. You can only activate this ability if you control a Gideon Planeswalker. So it sort of gives your creatures either additional usage or a pseudo-vigilance for 2 mana. The additional usage is actually quite nice if you consider the fact that several creatures in this set will have an exert ability, like Nefkrop Entangler here. When it attacks, when you exert it, it gets +1/+2 until end of turn, but then it doesn't become useful for a whole other turn. Companion of the Trials will let you reuse those characters right away instead of having to wait. It looks like Graceful Cat is Gideon's signature common card, which is a little weird. It's a 2/2 for 3 that becomes a 3/3 on the attack. I suppose that does keep in line with Gideon's I'm buffing the creatures ability, but it's a cat. I guess Gideon must have an affinity for cats. And that is the deck. I'll give it some plays, both against Liliana and against some challenge decks, and I'll be back to let you know what I think. So I've had a little time to play around with this deck, both against Liliana's Planeswalker deck and also against some challenge decks, and I have to say that I am actually quite impressed with this deck overall. Granted, this isn't engineered to perfection, but it is actually a very consistent, aggressive deck that, for the most part, really knows what it's trying to do and focuses very much on doing that. So the mechanic that's focused on here is Exert, and it's exemplified by cards like On-Crop Crasher, where it can exert as it attacks and it prevents a creature from blocking. And this card was actually a standard all-star in mono red, and so the fact that you get 3 of these makes this deck feel quite good, especially when you add the 2 cartouches of Zeal as well, which have a similar effect and can give any of these creatures haste, which means that you're going to be attacking in with a strengthened creature at the cost of 1 more mana at any point, just dropping a cartouche of Zeal on it. And what's even more impressive about this deck is that almost every single one of its non-creature spells are not dirtily. Like, they all have a purpose, which is to remove things that are in the way or that are major threats, with a huge bunch of removal in 3 Trials of Zeal, 2 Electrifies, an impeccable timing, and the cartouches of Zeal, and let your creatures get in for a massive amount of damage. Now, it is truly an aggressive deck in the sense that it has a fairly low curve, with the majority of its cards being in 3 and the 2 converted mana cost slots. And that makes it so that this deck is going to come out and hit hard and hit fast. Now, granted, there are no 1 casting cost creatures here, so it's not going to be the fastest of them, but still, the fact that the majority of the deck is really weighted to this, and the lands are cut down to 24, which feels like it might still be a little bit much, but the fact that it's cut down to this makes it feel very aggressive, strong out of the gate, and seems to really be pursuing the agenda of getting there faster. And this actually ties in very well with Gideon and his special cards as well, because the Disgraceful Cat is an aggressive creature as a 2/2 on the defensive, but a 3/3 on the offense, and that fits in very well with the general plan of this deck. And his uncommons in Companion of the Trials actually has the ability to untap creatures, which basically lets you reuse the Exert on the variety of Exert creatures here the very next turn, instead of having to wait another turn before they untap. Similarly, cards like Sparring Mummy actually fit this well. And even Gideon himself, if you are able to cast him, one of his abilities is to untap all creatures, then give them +1/+1. That gives you a bit of 2 ways of using him, either to pump the creatures on the attack, or to attack with everything exerted, and then using his ability after the attack step to untap them all so that you can use them again. Even his spell that tutors for him works as an anthem, powering up all of your creatures, and so almost everything here works towards the goal of the deck, which is to hit hard, hit fast, and win the game quickly. And that makes this perhaps one of the best Planeswalker decks I've had the pleasure of playing. Now, there are a couple weaker card choices in here, and those are literally just 2 card choices. One is one of the rares in Hazard's Favor, which gives you the ability to give 1 creature +2/+0 and haste until end of turn, and then it sacrifices. And that's perhaps a good way to, near the end of the game, just get creatures through blockades of bigger, fatter creatures, but it doesn't really feel good in this particular deck because it doesn't really give trample. And so the best you're going to be able to do is to trade a creature for a creature, which may be necessary at times, but it really isn't going to give you any real push towards closing out the game like perhaps another removal spell might have even been able to do, or direct damage to the face. The other creature that doesn't quite fit as well here is Hyena Pack as a 4-mana 3/4. And it just feels a little defensive compared to everything else in here, and it doesn't synergize. But the fact that those 3 cards are pretty much the only cards that don't really feel like they have a home in this deck, and with Hazard's Favor, that's only my own personal preference, that really helps make Gideon's Planeswalker deck really feel consistent, and that it actually has a particular plan, both between the creatures, the mechanic that's featured here, as well as Gideon the Planeswalker himself. And for that, I think that this is one of the best examples of Planeswalker decks that you can play, at least up until the release of Amonkhet. If you had any experience with this deck, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. If you found this video helpful to you, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more such videos, hit subscribe. This is Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.